Hello, time for my Q&A for Board High School. I'm Whisperman. Um, okay, everybody's asking bagels or donuts. The answer to that will have to be donuts. Donuts are just gorgeous. End of story. Michelle asks two questions. First of all, favourite Doctor and companion. Favourite Doctor has got to be by a mile Peter Davison. He is just my Doctor. He's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Companion would be Jamie McCrimmon. He's Scottish and he wears a kilt. Anyone who doesn't like him needs to die. Sorry if I offended anyone. No, that was wrong. No, Jamie McCrimmon's just brilliant. He wears a kilt. I mean, come on, how can you not like someone who wears a kilt? Yeah. If you could travel with any two Doctors and any three companions, which would they be? Two Doctors would be Peter Davison, because he's my favourite, and Christopher Eccleston, because he's my second favourite. They're both brilliant. They probably get along quite well, actually, as well. Three companions, that would be Jamie, because he's my favourite. Clara, she is stunning. And probably Rose, because she's my first companion. Yeah, so, okay. Josh asks two questions. Favourite story for each Doctor and why is the first question. This is going to take a while. Okay. William Hartnell, my favourite story for him is The Sensorites. It's probably because it's just generally a good story, and yeah, it's a good story, and I don't know, the Sensorites, they sort of remind me of the Ood a bit, which is quite nice. I mean, I know the Sensorites came before the Ood, obviously, by a mile, but yeah, I don't know, they seem a bit like the Ood for me, and I don't know, just the plot was generally quite good, and I like the fact that one of the Sensorites didn't believe that, I don't know, didn't believe that the Doctor and his companions were being truthful. Actually, I mean, I know it happens a lot throughout the whole 50 years of Doctor Who, but I don't know, I just seemed very believable in this story. And I think it was one of the first times as well, so you weren't actually used to it. Patrick Troughton, favourite story for him would be The Mind Robber, by a mile. That I love the idea of going outside the universe, and so travelling to the void itself I found very interesting, with all its fantasy creatures as well, like Minotaur, Gorgon, just loads of like creatures like that, and yeah, so that's why I like that one. Inferno for John Pertwee, because again, outside the universe, he travels to a parallel universe, and I like the idea of running ahead of this universe as well, so he can see the disaster before it happens. Tom Baker, Genesis of the Daleks, because, well, we see Davros for the first time, and, well, I like the idea that the Doctor's facing whether he could truly commit genocide or not, because that's not who he is, but it's the Daleks. Yeah, so Peter Davison, my favourite would be The Five Doctors, the 20th anniversary special, because, well, Five Doctors, I mean, I know Tom Baker's not technically in it, and William Hartnell is played by Richard Hurndall, but despite that, Five Doctors, a Dalek, Cybermen, the Master, Gallifrey and Rassilon, all of this, and a brilliant story as well, if I do say so myself. So that's my favourite for Peter Davison. Colin Baker would be Trial of a Time Lord. I know it's a very long story, but I like it because we sort of see his human side of it as well, especially when we think Perry's died. Sorry if I've just spoiled that for anyone, my apologies. Yeah, so Trial of a Time Lord. For Sylvester McCoy, my favourite isn't a popular choice. It's The Greatest Show in the Galaxy. I like this one because Because it, although it's silly a bit, I like silly sometimes if the plot works with silly, and I like the fact that the Doctor's doing all this act as well for like the circus and stuff, and I like the terror behind the circus, which sort of plays on childhood fears. Um, Now for Paul McGann, most people would say the Doctor Who movie because that is his only TV appearance, and a lot of people don't bother with the audios. However, I have listened to some of the audios, and my favourite Paul McGann story that I've listened to, I haven't listened to all the audios obviously, so I can't judge properly, but Blood of the Daleks I love, because although I didn't like his companion Lucy at this point, I did like her later on, but in this story, Blood of the Daleks, obviously there's Daleks, which any Whovian loves, but apart from that, it was my first proper Paul McGann story since the TV movie, and you get to see how much of a great Doctor he is as well. Like Paul McGann's acting for the Doctor is just absolutely brilliant, because he's actually my third favourite Doctor. But yeah, and I also love the fact that there's a war in it as well like later on in the story, which I've always liked the idea of, like a war between Daleks and humans and stuff like that. But yeah, moving on to Christopher Eccleston, my favourite would be the Doctor Dances, Empty Child Doctor Dances, mainly because when I first watched the story I was 11 years old, so the Empty Child terrified me. And for me, the Empty Child is the only monster to actually properly terrify me. And I just love being scared of something. I don't know, it sounds a bit weird, but yeah, I'm weird. Yeah, but as well as that, all the acting in it is just brilliant, especially Christopher Eccleston, as always. So yeah. I also love the fact that it's set in World War II as well. Yeah, moving on, David Tennant, Waters of Mars by a mile. I like how he starts to realise his death is coming soon, and that he changes a lot by thinking he can alter fixed points in time. I also love the enemy, the Flood, because I like the fact that one drop could kill you, which is quite a scary thought really, with all this water, because obviously we need water to live. So yeah, I like the idea of that, and it's set on Mars as well. Speaking of which, did you know that that they're sending people up to Mars now? So yeah, that could that actually could come true. Yeah. So Matt Smith, my favourite. I could get a lot of hate for this because this episode split Whovian in half, I believe. You either hate it or you love it. I loved it. Brings back a 10. Simply because, it was a planet with lots of aliens for a new companion, for starters. Love Clara. But apart from that, you just, especially in his monologue at the end, you really get to know the Doctor. If you hadn't watched Doctor Who before and you watched this episode, you would really understand how emotional he can get, and you really start to feel for him. So yeah, that is my favourite story for each Doctor. That was all one question, Jesus. The second one, Admin Crush, Alonzi Alonso, sorry. Yeah, moving on. Jodie asks, how did you get started in all things Doctor Who? I was actually on my computer, and my parents were about to watch the 2005 episode Rose, and my dad actually called in and said I might like it, so I thought, why not, I'll go in and watch it, not expecting much. I was wrong. I loved it from the moment it started. and I just knew I would love it for years to come. Yeah, so Tyrone asks, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Let's just say both and move on. Matthew says, what's your religion, age, favourite Doctor Who episode and favourite moment? My religion is Whovianism, obviously. Age 19. My favourite Doctor Who episode, new episode would be Waters of Mars, as I've explained. Classic episode, Five Doctors, again I've explained because that was my favourite Peter Davison. Favourite moment. There are just so many moments to choose from in Doctor Who, I cannot pick one. It is physically impossible to choose one moment out of that entire 50-year run of the programme. So I cannot answer that, sorry Matthew. And finally, Evelyn. I can't understand. Well, this question's hard to understand because of how it's written, but what I gather from it is that she lived in Mexico for 2 years and began to watch Doctor Who, and it got her really interested, and she's back in the States and she doesn't know where she can watch it. Any suggestions? I would say Daily Motion, pretty much, because throughout this summer I've been watching all the classic episodes and every serial is on there apart from Day of the Daleks, Destiny of the Daleks and Earthshock. With New Who, I've seen some episodes on there I think, but I'm not quite sure because I don't need them because I've got the DVDs for them, so that's why. But Daily Motion is definitely the place I'd look for it. So yeah, that's my question and answer. Exterminate! Exterminate! Bye!